Alright, YouTube, it didn't take long. NPR has shut down its comment section because trolls, offensive people, disruption, which isn't the actual reason that they closed them down. Did I not just yesterday talk about the death of the mainstream media, talking about how it is specifically the lack of interaction that's destroying mainstream sites? Nobody's gonna watch news on TV when they can tune into a stream that they can actually chat with other people and they can share their own opinion and views. Part of this is because most people have massive egos, think that they're more intelligent, and part of it is because there are people who honestly are more intelligent and will offer the truth, minus all the bias and spin of these large networks, and these large networks, of course, don't like that. For instance, on CNN, why do you think they overhauled their site? It's because before that overhaul, what ended up happening is that people who were mentally quick and politically active generally would lurk in the political areas of CNN or some of these other sites and very quickly comment on anything that was up there. Thus, their comment would get voted up more, would get more thumbs up or likes or whatever. And then people primarily ignored the news story and would go straight to the comment section to join the melee. And now, of course, when these sites, they close down comments, people can't do that anymore. What do you think they're going to do? Are they going to say, oh, well, that's regrettable. At least I don't have to see these trolls. I guess I'll still use this news source. No, they're not going to use the news source at all. What they're going to do is they'll go to some other site that just reposts it and allows comments. That's what they'll end up doing. It's not going to, by the way, stop third parties on other platforms like Facebook or YouTube or Twitter from excoriating these same groups. It's not going to happen. And so I don't know what they gain by this other than they cut off a large part of their audience that's actually politically and socially aware enough to bother commenting in the first place. Now, the democratization of news is a good thing because it allows people to hold the media more accountable, number one, which is a good thing. The fact that the lamestream media has gone on an absolute festival of stupidity lately, number two. To say, oh, well, we're closing these comments because trolls. The internet's horrible because trolls. Anything that we don't like that's said, an opinion that we don't happen to share is obviously trolling. People see through it. People realize that that's a bunch of bullshit. It's not even trolling most of the time. It's just somebody posts an opinion, or a fact, in many cases, that's inconvenient to the mainstream media, that they don't want to see. They don't want other people who gobble up their material like a bunch of idiots to see that truth put on there, thus cheapening their own story. Right now, this election has morphed partially, not completely, but partially, into a referendum on the media and establishment politics, to the point at which it isn't just Trump's populism that's gaining dominance. Hillary's the only establishment person there in the race. You get this Sullivan person, nobody's even heard about him, nobody fucking cares. He's not going to get even 1%. He's a non-issue. Clinton represents the sole candidate left standing, who is backed by the big banks, the corporations, the corporate media, and all the usual criminals and syndicates and groups like that back our election system, that fund it, and then they extract tribute from the politicians once they've been elected. Donald Trump represents returning the Republican Party to populism. Many people don't like that, some people do. Gary Johnson represents a more moderate, slightly libertarian approach. Then Jill Stein represents actual liberalism. It's very funny to me to see Being Liberal constantly heap abuse on Jill Stein while endorsing a candidate who has in turn the endorsement of a dozen congressional Republicans, which is Hillary Clinton, along with the tacit endorsement of Wall Street and a bunch of corporations. It's very, very funny because she's not a liberal, not by the not by the original definition of the term, and not by the definition of the term as in far left, like Jimmy Carter liberals. She's not even as far left as her husband was when in office, and he wasn't really a liberal either. He certainly wasn't like all the Republicans at the time they ranted, oh, he's so liberal, such a pinko. He wasn't even a liberal. He's just a corporate neo-lib. No different from a John McCain, other than he has a D after his name. Still a warmonger, Still a tax and spend, pro-military, jingoistic asshole, just like Hillary Clinton is, just like John McCain and Mitt Romney and all these other goofballs up there. I decided it would be best to back the sort of moderate libertarian movement of Johnson. I think he could do better. I think he should be more libertarian on more issues, and he'd still be a pragmatic libertarian, but I can stomach it more than I can some of Trump's views, certainly than what Clinton's saying, and I think Jill Stein is insane. But the lamestream media, you got CNN, you've got MSNBC, you've got Fox News, you've got The Blaze, which is Glenn Beck's conservative rag, really, dying off, just like his show did on Fox, but it's still there. It still has fans. Now, you've got ABC, NBC, you've certainly got NPR, you've got RT, which is sort of a mainstream news program crossover from Russia, but it's mainstream news at this point. It's no longer, it's not like it was in 2012 with Ron Paul or something like that. It's just not the same. They've become little more than a Trumpite sort of outreach program. It's actually very funny to see. So all these groups, if they shut down comments and won't let people weigh in, they're going to die off. Because more and more interconnectivity, more and more participation by decentralized individuals is what's driving the internet. The very fact of social media existing is a testament to this. People have sought increasing ways to connect one another, to weigh in, to chat, to talk to each other. It started out as primitive, like IRC text chat rooms. That's how it sort of starts out, and primitive forums, and then they get more and more advanced over time, more interconnected, to the point at which all these media sites, if they have comments at all, they're all hooked up to G+, and Facebook and Twitter and all of these other sites, so that people can comment there. There's a reason for that. It was good for their sites. It brought in new traffic. It allowed people to seamlessly sort of merge their presence on these sites with the media, and to weigh in on political topics and social topics and the disaster that just happened and the economy and things like that. A site takes that away, and it doesn't matter how large a media organization it is. It's going to be crushed on one side by the other lamestream media news groups that actually do allow participation, and number two, by the social media apparatus itself, whereby people will still weigh in on these things. It's just they won't be doing it on the dedicated news page. People will still talk about NPR's stories, mostly from a critical perspective, I would think. It's just they won't be doing it on NPR's actual physical site. They'll be doing it on YouTube, like I'm doing now, or they'll do it on Twitter. They'll take to Twitter and they'll slash them down a peg. Or they'll do it on Facebook through a group or something like that, or post on their wall. Or they'll make a post on their blog, or they'll go to Reddit and talk about it, something like that. And what you'll end up having is that there are other social media presences that are now required for a mainstream media site to function. They're going to have a Twitter. They're going to have a dedicated YouTube page. They're going to have a Facebook group associated with their media brand. Those will get attacked instead. And so in the long term, all they've done is piss off a larger segment of the population than any individual story they could have printed would ever piss off. And then they're getting brigaded off-site. It's not touching their main website anymore, but all their social media apparatus that has to be there. Otherwise, they seem like true dinosaur media, not just legacy media, but dinosaur media, will get torched. It'll be completely enraptured by flame wars. Trolls will pour in. They'll do it just for the lulz. They'll attack it from off-site. They'll organize raids on 4chan or Reddit or something like that. And they'll use different justifications. It's funny because they're stupid, so they deserve to be trolled. Or we have to be social activists here. We have to convince them to put the comments back on, or pay a heavy toll for not doing so, or something like that. No, let alone the fact that merely covering the election at this point will get sites trolled anyway. I get people on my channel now occasionally. Some get caught in the spam filter because they're doofuses. Some get through. And I don't have a problem, by the way, with them being here, who will troll me because I happen not to support Hillary Clinton. Because I don't like corporate candidates. I can't vote for them. It seems like a bad idea to vote for somebody who has like the endorsement of all of these retards who keep shilling it up and destroying the native population with their economic proposals. I think that's probably not the greatest idea for the country going forward. Plenty of people disagree with that, and they're more than willing to make it clear that they disagree. The difference being, I don't have a problem if they criticize me on YouTube. But NPR is so uptight about it. People are being offensive. Somebody was cyberbullying on our comment section. We can't have that. We got to shut down the comments entirely. No, what you should do is just fucking moderate them a little bit more. It's not that difficult. Sites have been doing it for half of forever. Yeah, you'll get the occasional troll that switches IPs, makes a new account, comes back, and won't leave you alone. I would think it'd be preferable to losing a significant proportion of your audience because you don't have comments at all, and all of your other sites end up getting trolled. Your Twitter's going to get trolled. Your Facebook page will get trolled. Your YouTube presence will get trolled if you have a YouTube presence. Anything else associated with your brand that's got any connectivity at all, any interaction going on, is going to get hit. So it's stupid. Social media, for all of the ills that are associated with it, truly, is really a good thing for keeping like the corporate media accountable. It's also very good with political parties. What happened when the Fed just opened a Facebook page and all they did was get trolled, so they had to go silent. That's the way that it should be. People should be able to air their grievances. Yeah, I don't have a problem with the fact that the internet, that was supposed to be like a philosophical turba or something like that of a bunch of wise people sitting around discussing issues, devolved into a pitchfork-wielding mob, because sometimes that mob is what you need. Sometimes that mob of trolls really honestly is what we need to keep these idiots accountable. So hopefully NPR does get hit. I hope all of their presence gets hit. It'd be great. Maybe they'll restore the commenting function, maybe they won't, and they'll eventually, when their audience slacks off, they'll learn their lesson. They'll realize, you got people increasingly who are now middle-aged, who are used to having this interaction with news sites and with political parties and stuff like that. They're not going to tolerate that. Maybe some old fogey who's like, 1,000 years old doesn't care because they don't know how to comment in the first place, but are they really the ones using the internet with great frequency? No. It's like the under 50 crowd for the most part. I realize I've got viewers who are, on the older side. Obviously, you're tech literate. But, then again, there are also people in your age bracket that aren't tech literate. They're not the ones they're the ones potentially who would be the most offended by these comments. They're also the ones least likely to actually be using NPR's website. They're going to listen to it on the radio in their car maybe. They'll tune into these various news programs on TV. But they don't. It's like my dad. He doesn't use the internet. He's never used it in his life. He never has. So he's not going to be offended by any of these things on here. If he would be offended, and I don't think he would, but he'd probably chuckle, then it wouldn't matter because he's not using NPR's website. He's not using Fox News' website or MSNBC or any of these things. NPR will pay, I believe, a hefty toll in terms of the traffic going to their site by closing comments. They will pay a hefty toll, and they will likely get attacked elsewhere. Good. They deserve it. They should know better in this world. And it's even funnier when, like, U.S. corporate media, they talk about censorship in other countries, and then you have these same media groups saying, oh, but people aren't going to comment on our material because we don't want our feelings hurt. It's not about the trolling, it's about they don't want people to get red-pilled by somebody telling the truth on an article that's nothing but a bunch of bias and spin. I'm very surprised at this point that groups like Being Liberal and Salon haven't shut off their comments on Facebook. I half expect any given day to find that they have. Because most of the time when they post something stupid, then somebody shows up and shoots to the top of that post in the comments area saying why it's stupid. Because there are still enough people in this world with intelligence to realize how biased and spun up most of these stories are. Even on the underground or unprofessional side of the media, which is really what many of these pages, especially within politics, really have become. Over time, they haven't become so much about advocacy, they've become propaganda tools. Unfortunately, they're not effective anymore, like they were in 2008 or 2012. They've been declining so quickly because of the decentralization of content on even the larger social media sites. I realize Google is a massive corporate entity. It has an enormous proportion of all of the web's stuff in it, all of the traffic going to it. But the content on some of the larger bits of its platform, like YouTube, is decentralized. Yes, you have a handful of YouTubers that get hundreds of millions of views. But then there are a large number that are getting millions or tens of millions of views. And that's all decentralized. The people like myself with a webcam. Not somebody who gets paid a six-figure salary to put a bunch of political material online. Somebody who's just honestly interested in it, has been here for almost a decade, and is interested in continuing to talk about these things. NPR can die and wither and it wouldn't even be missed. Nobody would even miss it. That's the point. Nobody cares anymore. People are more likely to look up some random blog about NPR than they are NPR. If they keep continuing in that direction, it'd be very funny. Good riddance. That's about all. Peace out.